Hi, everybody. Steve Cady here with Truit, Dr. Gray and Dr. Brodke. We have now moved into our first real full iteration with this new design to the program in terms of the first year being around theory, foundations, lit reviews, and those kinds of things, moving into the second year focusing on research methods, your research question, and preparing you for two things. One is your preliminary exam to demonstrate your scholar practitioner knowledge around research. What's important around that is that all scholar practitioners that graduate from this program are adept at understanding, speaking to, and utilizing in different ways, because I think it's important to know that you're not a master of all research when you're done with the second year. You are knowledgeable in both quantitative and qualitative research approaches. And with that, you understand mixed, because mixed is a little bit of both, and general research design. And from my perspective, when you leave able to discuss, evaluate, read, understand research, that's number one. And number two, having enough to go into your dissertation and get started on it, and then you learn as you go. So for example, in my dissertation, I did Mancova design, and I also did exploratory confirmatory factor analysis around instruments that I used in my research study. I had support area in research design and research methods at Florida State University, and I didn't fully understand all of this until I got into my dissertation and began to really apply it and use it real time. I knew enough to get started, and I knew enough how to find things, and I knew enough how to read articles and knew how to find articles. So the intention is getting you to the phase where you can do that. So first piece is around your preliminary exam. The preliminary exam is intended to understand, to evaluate, assess, and verify that you are a scholar practitioner able to look at, understand, critique literature in all domains, and that you're able to discuss and understand it and know where to go and how to get started, wherever you pick. The second piece of the second year, and this is me speaking because I know Truit, Michelle, we've all talked about it. You'll give your perspective on it, so I'm giving mine. Second perspective is being prepared to know how to choose the right research design to go with your research question, and to be in position to go deeper as you go through your dissertation process. And so to be able to do that second piece. So some students have said, well, why don't I just focus on my research method that I'm going to do and focus on my classes just on the method I'm doing for my dissertation? That's second half of two core pillars. You want to use these courses over the year to help you get ready for your dissertation. You also want to use these to understand research and how to do both, because as you go on your research journey and build your scholar practitioner research agenda, you're going to use both types of research design as you build out your stream of research and your knowledge base and so forth. So that's sort of a preamble to what's happening this second year. And we really worked hard. And thank you, Michelle, who has played a major role from the very beginning, and in us figuring this out, and also the redesign that we've done. I'm really grateful for that, Michelle, and also the role that you play during the third year dissertation process, along with Carol, who will speak to what she sees on her end as people come into that third year experience, how they're coming in and how to leverage the second year to get the most out of the third year experience. And Carol guides that process along with other faculty that will be working with her in delivering these residencies. Michelle is also there as a resource, that she plays a major role in that and supporting the students through that third year experience. So that'll come into the play. So understanding all of that's important to having context for this second year. Hi, Lauren. Good to see you. So it's important to understand that as context, setting the stage for going into the second year, second semester, and then going into your third year. So Michelle, you played a major role. Carol, a major role. We have worked on this really hard in many ways to create and continue to iteratively build what I think is a very robust model, that approach or way of helping you all excel and finish on time or finish at a time that works for you. Now, Truit comes in, dropping in, and I'm particularly excited about Truit. I particularly, when we were interviewing, I was like, I'm going to grab that guy, drive down to Oklahoma, throw him in the car, drive him back here, and make him come here. So, and the reason, and honestly, the reason why, and he can attest to the fact that when we talked at dinner on a few occasions, I was super excited about what he had learned from working with doctoral students at Oklahoma. He is a PhD, and we also had a DBA program. So he worked with his instructor, who was one of the main faculty at Oklahoma in the PhD and the DBA programs. And she heads up the research design kind of area, or leads that for them. And he was a part of learning how to work with her as a PhD student in supporting the DBA, Doctor of Business Administration students, in their research courses. And he worked hand in hand with them and did a lot of work with them. And so I knew that he had the perspective of a student working as a PhD versus Doctor of Business Administration, helping people get through and that kind of stuff. And he had a unique perspective, particularly working with his key instructor, who was a big part of a revision that they did to their program to help elevate the rigor of their DBA and help to ensure that they were preparing people to do good scholar practitioner work as DBAs. And you all are doctors of OD&C. So with all of that, Truit, I'm really grateful for you being willing to step into the space to guide them through the process. And Truit comes in with a great deal of foundational knowledge, not only knowledge and expertise, but practical and contextual knowledge, because he's been through the experience, has worked with students, and he understands that. And he's taken the time over the last 2 years to really get to know you all, to know the program, which I'm grateful for. And he's taken a great interest and playing an instrumental role as a part of our faculty in the program. So with all that being said, I'm excited about what you're embarking on through this second year. I've heard great things about the first 2 classes, how you all are going through with Janelle and with Deb, and looking at those 2 classes, moving into wrapping up this class that you have right now, moving into the spring experience. So I'm going to turn it over to Truit. He'll lead the session with Michelle and Carol supporting him. And Teo, being our GA, is playing a support and making sure that we have Canvas set up and we have dates set up, because the making sure you know the specific dates and those kinds of stuff, that plays into Carol and Teo, but he's here as a part of really listening in and making sure that we have the tools and the resources and things together to be there to follow up, and for Truit and Michelle and Carol as we learn from this process. So anything else I need to say before I turn it over to you, Truit?
No, not that I can think of. I appreciate the introduction, and yeah, I'm excited to, I guess, jump in and start teaching in the program. As Steve mentioned, that was something that I found very appealing about BGSU when I was on the job market and interviewing and talking with everybody. I really enjoyed my experiences working with the executive PhD program at Oklahoma State. Got a lot of hands-on experience TAing that quantitative methods course there. That's part of their sequencing. But then, to Steve's point, my advisor is pretty big methods person in the field, and so I guess got a lot of expertise from her, learnings from her, and yeah, now I'm excited to, I guess, apply that here. So a few things to Steve's point, I want to reiterate, like it's important to be well-rounded, right? Coming out of a higher education level degree program like this, and so like I'm not. A lot of people have pigeonholed me already as just a quant person. I did a qual study as part of my dissertation. I'm also pretty well versed in qualitative work, so you can also ask me questions and reach out about things like that, right? Again, I think it is very important to understand both sides of that. But then also, to Steve's point, I know I'm not going to dwell on this too long, but I know some people are a little more hesitant when thinking about the quantitative side of things. And even if you aren't planning at this point on doing a quantitative study as part of your dissertation, part of your lit review will be understanding the work that has come before you. That's not going to all be qual work that you're looking at and reviewing, right? You need to be able to understand, what did people do? What is this quantitative study that I'm reading? What is it telling me? Did they do it well? Did they not do it well? Basically, should I put any weight on this study? Should I even include it in my lit review, right? When you're writing up that lit review with your dissertation, there's a lot of really good work out there, as I'm sure Michelle can attest to as well. There's a lot of really poor quant work out there as well, where there's some major challenges. And if you don't have that base level of understanding, you might not see that, oh, this paper I'm not sure if I can really essentially trust these results, right? I'm not sure if they're really telling me anything. So that's another pitch for why it's important to be able to understand both quant and qual methods, regardless of which one you're actually doing as part of your dissertation. And then, of course, as Stephen, if you're going to continue your research stream in the future, there's probably going to be questions that arise that are going to be better suited for one or the other. And the research question should always drive what methods you do, not the inverse, right? So you shouldn't let basically a lack of willingness to engage with a particular method hold you back from asking the question that you truly want to ask, right? If you have some intrinsic interest in a research question, ask it. And if you aren't well versed in how to execute it, that's where hopefully, right, you have a support system, you have, colleagues, you have, the faculty here that are going to be happy to help you out with that process. And part of my course, one of the focuses is on helping you learn how to teach yourself methods. That's going to sound scary for a moment. I'm going to dive into that more in a second. A few things I want to reiterate at first is that this is not a math course. A lot of people hear quantitative methods and they think, ooh, math, scary, formulas, equations everywhere, right? That is not the intention of this course. There is a certain level of understanding generally when it comes to what the analyses are doing, right? And what's the underlying baseline that is being built upon. I'm not going to have you through and by hand calculating calculating different simple slopes for moderation or something. If that doesn't mean anything to you, it will once we get to the moderation weekend in the course. That's in my mind more traditional PhD program type stuff. We're not going to do that. So we're going to stay distance as much as we can from the math. And I would say it's not even necessarily a stats course. There's going to be absolutely interpreting, right, results and output and dealing with that. But methods is so much more than just math or stats. It's study design, study planning, measurement, selection, how to actually set up literally a survey, how to execute things, how to clean data so you can actually access it in a better way, right? How to decide, okay, is this a case that I include in the study or not? Because, there's missing data. There's all sorts of aspects that oftentimes get overlooked when we're only thinking about, quantitative methods or qualitative methods. Again, and I would say at this point, and I'm all for it because I'm not a huge math person myself, the software does the math part. Again, you're going to get an understanding of what the software is doing in that process, but you're not going to have to hands-on calculate things. So again, I want, to hopefully, I guess, remove some anxiety potentially there. Again, so my goal overall is to help teach you how to teach yourself methods, because going back to the lack of being able or feeling like you have the knowledge to do a certain type of method should not hold you back from asking the research question that you want. So let's say you do your dissertation, and then later on you have maybe in your organization you have some question that comes up that you really want to ask, but you think, well, I'm not sure how I'd analyze that. That doesn't mean you shouldn't still ask the question, right? You can learn how to do that analysis. You can learn how to interpret those results. So part of this is there's not a cookbook for methods, right? It's really hard to say, hey, here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3. That's going to apply to every single context, right? That every single research question. Each research question and subsequent study is somewhat unique. Unless there's going to be overlapping, analyses, like a lot of studies deal with, regression, mediation, moderation, but there's certain, contextual components that you're going to need to be aware of. And so it's hard to give a just straight out cookbook, and I would say the same thing for qualitative methods. This is just for methods in general. And also methods are constantly evolving. There's constantly new ways to look at things and new approaches. And so that's where being able to digest that as it, comes out, and being able to continue to advance your learning over the course of your careers is, I think, a key learning that I'm hoping that you get from this course. So, of course, we are going to do things like how to perform what I view as core quantitative methods type analyses. We're going to do regression, hierarchical regression. We're going to do confirmatory factor analysis, mediation, moderation, things that you've probably seen that language in the articles that you're reading and such. They're pretty base level as far as my thought is, right? These are terminologies and analysis that you need to be comfortable with as a graduate of a doctorate level program. And so we're going to go into things like that. As far as the course structure goes, as we all know, I've got 7 weeks to teach you methods. And so that can be a little, I guess, stressful on my part in that how do I package things? But I think I've got a good formula for how we're going to do this. So one way that I think that I would say the main way that you learn methods in general, whether it's quantitative or qualitative, is by doing. There has to be hands-on. There has to be some practice. There has to be some, right, doing the analyses or at least interpreting the results. There needs to be writing up results. So that's another key emphasis for this class is we're going to work towards how to actually write a method section, right? How do you take your results and put them into words, right? That it's almost like writing in a different language at first when you start writing method section. It's going to be uncomfortable at first, and that's okay. It's still at times uncomfortable for me when I'm trying to, how do I want to write about this so it's actually understandable? So I'm getting at the data side of it, but also so it's the reader can understand why this matters, right? What's the implications of this? So what we're going to do each week in a probably Monday evening session that is, I know probably not technically mandatory, but it'll be extremely highly encouraged that you attend. Or else I'm going to be honest, you're going to struggle. Like I will record it, but you're probably going to struggle because it's just really hard to not be engaged with this type of material. It's not something that I can just say, oh, here's a reading, go do it. Honestly, if we just did that, you're going to be probably way more miserable. You're going to think, what the hell am I trying to do here? So each Monday evening, we're going to hop on, and I'm going to introduce the assignment and the topics for that week. And then there'll be a couple of readings with that. There'll be an assignment document that walks you through what you need to do. You're going to go work on it. Then Thursday evening, this one will be completely voluntary. Where I will just make myself available on Zoom for an hour or so. You can hop in, you can ask questions, clarification, see how things are going, if you're on the right track with things. Between the sessions, you're of course more than welcome to shoot me emails and we can set up, one-on-one meetings. So that's another thing I'm only teaching this course in the spring because I have a course release from a publication. So you all are my entire focus for the spring. So don't hesitate to reach out and pester me as much as you need to. And yes, Cady, those Monday sessions will be recorded if people can't attend. But I'm going to try. We'll talk a little bit later, probably in a few weeks, or I'll send out a poll to see what time is going to be most likely able to be attended by people. So we'll schedule it for when people are most likely able to attend those sessions. And so you'll have the assignment. You'll work on that through the week. That will just be due before the next Monday evening session. And then at that next Monday session, we're going to go over and review that previous assignment. I'll go into more detail on somewhat more lecture-ish type, but not more discussion, share some more notes, some more, I guess, depth with, the topic that was for that week. And then I will go back to and share results. I'll have done the homework myself, right? So I can share the results. And then I'll introduce the next topic for that week. So it's going to be this cycle, right, of assignment each week. We review the previous assignment. We go into the next assignment. And then you have a week, you work on it, and we're going to keep building like that. That hands-on experience is something that, as a doctoral program, right, you all don't really get the hands-on experience with the research until that dissertation point. But again, to be able to fully, I think, feel comfortable with methods in general, you've just got to, learn by practicing. But again, I will be there to support and make sure that you have all the information that you need. Whether I'm not going to make you waste time on figuring out how the heck do I run this in SPSS or something, right? I will walk you through and help you on how to, run anything, any analyses that I'm having you run. The focus will be much more on the interpretation of results, right? So by the end of the course, my hope would be, I could just essentially like your prelim is, you can look at some output, you can look at some results and tell me what does this mean, right? So again, I'm less concerned. You're not going to be doing like coding and stuff in this class. Again, that's something that is beyond the focus of this class, beyond the level of this class. So that's not going to be the case. Now, I do want to say, right, I want to reiterate, this is a doctorate level degree. It's not a bachelor's. It's not a master's. Yes, you're going to have to do some work each week. You're going to have to do a decent amount of work. I'm aware that you all are very busy people that have jobs, that have families, have a lot of things going on outside of that. But this is a part-time degree where you are taking one class at a time. I think it's within reason to ask you to engage with the material at least, a decent amount each week. I'm not going to have it. You're not going to be doing 20 hours in a week. it's going to be more than 5 probably, right? Like I would imagine the sweet spot's going to be in the 5 to 10 range, probably pushing more towards the 10 side. Again, you got one course at a time, and I've got 7 weeks to cover all this material. There's really just not another way to do it. Again, I will be there to support you and help you along the way. I want to read it anytime. I don't want you to spend any of that time doing things that are essentially a waste of your time, right? So any of the tedious logistics type things, or again, like how to run something, or oh, my SPSS isn't working for me, right? Instead of trying to troubleshoot it for an hour on yourself, you're going to immediately email me, and we're going to work get that taken care of so you can continue to focus on the things that are much more important. Overall, again, I will provide a good amount of structure going into the assignments, but it will be after you've kind of done some more of that hands-on and gotten involved in a little bit more. Then that following Monday is when we'll completely break down the assignment, which does mean you're not going to do perfectly on any assignment. I don't expect perfection on any assignment. A really good effort and solid try and showing that you're trying to learn this will get you a very high grade on the assignments. I'm not necessarily going to be grading for right or wrong, right? That would be counterintuitive to how I'm structuring this class. It's again, also, it will be uncomfortable writing up methods results at first, but you're going to get more comfortable as you practice and go along and get my feedback. A couple just logistics things. I'm going to do everything I can to get the Canvas course posted 1 week prior to the semester starting. So you should have that outline. I like to have my Canvas shell completely built out, so everything should be in there. Assignments and all that should be on Canvas and posted a week before the semester starts. One, I guess, ask I would have a view over the winter break is if you don't have SPSS on a computer at this point, get SPSS on a computer. I think that's working with maybe Tom and whoever you need to work with. Maybe that's more of a Steve question, but whoever you need to work with to get SPSS on a computer, get SPSS on a computer, and that will just save you some time and headache going into the semester. So that was a lot. I know that was a lot of talking. I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, I just want to reiterate, if you're feeling nervous or scared about it, don't be. I'm going to be here completely to help you through this and to help the learning process overall. I'm not going to leave you just stranded on an island where you're not sure what's going on and feel completely overwhelmed. Then also, I guess this would also be a time if Michelle or anyone has anything that oh, yep, Sarah.
Hi, so we used StatCrunch in the last class that I took. Would you prefer SPSS, or were you
I would absolutely prefer SPSS. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I think it's in the past, it's been incorporating the program. It's what Michelle, I think, wants to use also going into
SPSS? Okay.
her course. If I'm not
Some of the
Okay.
things he's going to be asking you to do, you
Yep.
can't do in StatCrunch.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that, Michelle, because I'm unaware of what StatCrunch has and what is available in it.
Okay. Thanks.
And then I'm not just going to say, hey, here's SPSS, go do stuff, right? Part of that very first class session is going to be me helping orient the class to SPSS. It's a fantastic tool for a lot of things. In addition to analyses, it's a great data management tool. You can basically have your code book in there in SPSS, which is very helpful. So again, I will help to get everyone on board at literally from week 1 into how to actually navigate SPSS.
So Michelle and Teo, who has addressed or is resolving the issue of how they get and what they get for SPSS? Because in the past, it's been a question that you can only get SPSS if you have a BGSU computer, and that's not the case for any of these students. So I think everybody's going to ask you that question, Truit. Somebody should have an answer, because if they have to pay for it, it's a very expensive software purchase.
So I actually used it in that EDFI class. We had the option of using that or StatCrunch, and I think it was a student price. I want to say it was $50 for a year. And I have it on my computer.
That's great news. That wasn't the case originally, I don't think. Was it, Michelle?
There are student prices and it's for a period of time. I think it was a little more than $50, but
It
anywhere.
was cheap. Yeah.
Okay. And then they're going to let you have it for a period of time. I'm not sure if it's 6 months or a year, but that's, I'm sure, something that their marketing department changes regularly. So we'll just see what happens when it gets closer.
So the main thing is we need to be responsible for paying for SPSS. That it's not coming with the program. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what it sounds like. I guess I'm unaware of how that's been handled. It's
No,
something
we have
that-
to cover it. No, we got to cover it somehow. And if it's too costly, then we have to find a different we have to find a different way.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. The way Tom, when I talked to him, seemed to think it was something that could be covered, or
No,
would be covered.
No, I will tell you, it has to be covered.
And the student pricing is, I mean,
Right.
I'm bummed my student pricing, my license just came up. I had like a
Yeah.
3-year student license.
Right.
But yeah,
Right.
the student licenses are pretty cheap.
We got to look at that, and it's got to fit into the budget around that. So sometimes, like if we wanted to get a software that was $5,000 per person, we wouldn't be able to get it, right?
Right.
So I mean, we just got to be practical about that. But if we have a resource for the program that's like that, that's like a book. We need to figure out a way to find that for them.
Okay. Yeah.
So
sounds good.
we'll talk about that offline, but we'll find that, and that'll be taken care of. Truit, probably after today. We got to look and figure out the best solution and get it
Yep.
done sooner than later. Okay.
Okay. Yep. Sounds good. Any other questions? I will probably also try, before I get the course actually posted on Canvas and stuff, we'll try and get the syllabus out to you all as quickly as I can once it's actually finalized. It's very close to being finalized right now. I mainly just need to go back through it and consider some of the content breakout. One thing, the residency will, we're gonna touch on a lot of things. With the structure of this course, right, the rolling assignment each week, whatever assignment is that week will, of course, basically cover during the residency. We're also gonna review what we had previously gone over, but then also we're gonna talk a lot about what I use the language that my advisor used called extra special bonus topics, which are topics that basically there's not an assignment on, there's not a full course, part of the course on, but it's things that you need to be aware of, right? So again, you can see when you see that language or that terminology in a paper, you can see, that triggered something in my head. Like I kind of remember I have some notes on this, right? So you can go back and then be more aware of, okay, this is what they're talking about here. Yep, Sarah.
I just want to know if we need Dr. Brodke's research cube in this class.
That's an artifact of the program that will never be forgotten.
Well, what's the research cube?
Yeah, it's around here somewhere, but yeah, it was a device I was hoping would help to separate experiments from not experiments, and longitudinal from cross-sectional and that kind of
I
thing.
still have mine on my desk, Dr. Brodke.
Well, bless you, bless you. And just on the whole, I'll be back, right? My class doesn't start until March 11th. Oh, look, Carol, there it is.
That's awesome.
So
She made these in her house and brought them to the first residency, and it was very symbolic.
I'm just not that creative.
She
That's awesome, Michelle.
well, yep. So talking about my class for the second part. So I am very excited that you all excel at Truit's class, as I'm sure you're excelling in the qualitative class, because when you get to me, I need you to know all that stuff so that we can, quick like bunnies, just joking, run through 3 rounds of data collection and write up. That's what my class is going to be. There's going to be 2 rounds of quantitative data collection, The reason I'm having 2 rounds of quantitative data collection is it's my belief that you need more practice with that side. And I can't applaud Truit enough for saying, please, please, please let your research question drive your choice, not your comfort or lack thereof with technology or statistical jargon or whatever. Please let your research question drive what you're going to do. So another thing I wanted to point out, in case you hadn't noticed already, the residencies run right up to the eclipse that's happening in this part of the country. So you need to get hotel reservations, etc. now, because according to the emergency management folks that just came and talked to our campus is actually closer to the center of total, whatever it's called, than Toledo is. But the expectation is everything will be booked. So flying out on Sunday is another thing you need to be thinking about if you're flying out. So the eclipsedness, I'm not sure if that's the word or not, but yes, so be mindful of that, and please learn everything from Deb and Truit, and we'll have a great time then just practicing, redoing everything that they're doing, and you're going to do it together. So get ready for that. You're not going to do quant and then qual and then quant. It's going to be mixed up. And you're going to have to write up and use APA format for methods, results, and discussion. Now, this is not going to be a method, results, and discussion that is the same as what you would submit for your dissertation. It's going to be shorter because I can't read all of that for 15 or whatever of you in that period of time. But the elements of what will be expected there, you're going to have to practice. And I guess that's about it.
I would just add, my hope, and I think it's going to be what happens, with this restructuring of the method sequence and everything, is while you're in it, it might feel a little, right, like probably at times overwhelming, right? And you might question, your competence. By the end of it, I think you're going to step back and think, oh, wow, I know things now. I think you're going to feel I can do things. I have a grasp. I can read this article now and actually know what they did. And was that appropriate even, right? You can even start to that next level of, was this a good paper, right? There's more to that than, right, just was their question good? Were their hypotheses good? Their theorizing good? I mean, in my mind, partly because I have the methods background and everything with that side of the training, I don't care about all that if your methods stink, right? Like that completely, if you can say, hey, I tested this, and if I look at it and say, did you? Right? That immediately I'm calling into question, right, those results. And so it doesn't matter if you say you had some really cool takeaway from your study, if you didn't execute that study well. It completely undermines all the other really good, great work you may have done. And again, I think at the end of this sequence, you'll think, oh, I'm in such a better position to evaluate other work, to evaluate my own work, right? To going into your dissertation, to think, oh, okay, here's some things that I wasn't really considering before, but maybe I should a little bit, right? Or else, my dissertation isn't going to be quite as strong as it could be. And as we go towards next semester, you have any questions over the break, let me know. I will be working on my own research and not doing much else over the break. So I'll be available to answer questions. Any other questions? Or
I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Mhm.
I just want to thank both you and Dr. Brodke because I've never had any type of stats. My background is in English. And so I've been in a mini panic about these classes, and I might have another one as we get into the classes, but I do want to say thank you for right now. I feel like it's at least doable.
And again, we know that different backgrounds, different experiences, right, and different levels of comfort with stats, data, and all that. So again, I'm very much keeping that in mind, especially as we first start out in the semester. Again, yeah, I don't view this as a pure math or stats class. So I think my hope is you'll find it very accessible.
And if not, you'll speak up.
Yes, true. Yes, no, seriously, and I think that's a great point, Carol. And if at any point anyone feels very uncomfortable with what they're doing, they feel lost. Like, don't just sit there and feel lost. That's miserable, right? I get that. Trust me, I didn't do that. I drove my advisor crazy during my PhD, and she was a very busy person. She was much busier than I technically am right now. So I have more bandwidth to be able to help. But yeah, this will be the only class that I am teaching in the spring, so I can really devote my full attention to it.
Yeah, I just wanted to second what Deb said. You all setting the expectations up front like this and giving these details in this way definitely does a lot. It goes a long way to ease some of those anxieties, some of those feelings we may be having going into this. So thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, no, of course. Oh, is there anything, Steve, is there anything else that you want to add, or otherwise I'm not sure I have much else that needs sharing.
No, I think it's good. You may have answered this because I've been doing a few different things, not fully listening. What might you recommend that they do between now and the start of the semester?
Well, and that's what we'll get, so getting SPSS installed, but we'll figure out how we're, going with that. But then beyond that, I guess when I do send that syllabus out, go through it and ask questions. Start to think a little bit and maybe pre-plan what can you do for the first 7 weeks of the spring to make yourself as available as possible Monday evenings. Again, I'm happy to schedule that, session whenever. I don't care if it's late, right? Whenever the most people are going to be able to consistently attend is when I will schedule it for. So think a little bit about, what you can maybe do from a planning standpoint to try to keep your Monday evening / nights a little available in the spring. If Mondays just don't work for anyone, I can try to play around a little bit with maybe we do it like Tuesday night or something. Sarah, do you have a?
Were you going to send out like a doodle poll, or would you like us to do that internally in our cohort so we can get back to you?
Oh, that's like because you all are going to have different thoughts on it.
So if I may interject, we'll save you some time. You have enough people here that you should probably just decide with the group that's here and get it off your plate.
A poll at least.
Then I would take the people that are here. If you all could just kind of put on the hat of everybody in the cohort, because there's 16 people here. And if you take 4 of us out, that's 12. So anyway, what do you all like in the chat? What would be, it's Monday evenings is what he's looking at. So what time Monday is what I would recommend, and get it off so that you can just get it done.
Preferably at like a 2-hour window. It's right if you're only able to attend, part of that's at least something. Yeah, I agree with the people not being in the Eastern time zone. That is gonna be a challenge. My initial thought was either like 8 to 10 or 7 to 9 might be where people are most available. And if it's 8 to 10, we can all have a glass of wine with us, and maybe that'll help us get through it on a late Monday night. Okay, after 8, after 9, so it's looking like we're trending towards a little bit later, probably in the evening. Okay, I will keep that in mind and think. I'm not sure if I can go as late. Starting at 9 is pretty late, but
Yes.
I would think maybe 8 or 8:30 possibly are options. It looks like
my experience is true. That's way too late. Is my experience. My experience is like 7:30 is probably what I've 7:30, 7 to 8 starting time.
Yeah, I would agree.
Somewhere in that range. No later than 8 for sure.
Yep, I would agree.
And
Yeah.
I would like to continue whatever time you choose. But I definitely can't do a 9 start. I'm too old for that.
I guess I can also open up, since are there less constraints on Tuesdays? If there's not, that's fine, and we'll just have to work around. There'll be the recording, and people can come and go as they need to. But yeah, do people essentially have the same constraints on Tuesdays that they have on Monday?
So for me personally, and I know this may not be anybody else's struggle, but the later it is on any day, I'm not gonna be my best self after having worked all day and all that kind of stuff. So
completely fair. Yep. No, trust me. I get it. I will be right there with you. So I will probably have to clarify what I say a few times, because I will probably have a little bit of a fuzzy head as well.
When I look at this, I'll try to be helpful. I would say probably based on what I'm seeing from everybody, unless I'm missing something, Tuesdays at 7:30.
Yeah, it's looking like Tuesdays might be a little bit easier for people.
And 7:30 might be a sweet spot.
I agree.
Is it one of those situations if we can like listen for the first 10, 15 minutes and then really need to be, cameras on, engaged for the rest? Is that how the structure will be? Like, we won't be fast paced from the jump.
I definitely, especially at first, the first thing I plan on doing, except for the very first class here, because there won't have been an assignment yet, the first thing will be going over the prior assignment. So yeah, being able to listen probably will be at least enough, as long, right, for the first handful of minutes. Yep. So yeah, okay. So I'm gonna tentatively maybe Tuesday at 7:30. I think that can hopefully work for the most students. And then I might shift then that optional, right, where I'm just gonna basically be online to help. Oh, I don't want to do that Friday night for personal reasons, but we might just keep that on Thursday.
Do it to yourself.
Yeah, I'll keep that on Thursday nights probably. But again, I will be available after Thursday leading up to now. So this means your assignments will be due then on Tuesday night before 7:30. But then I will help you, right? If you don't have questions that you haven't been able to start the assignment by Thursday to hop on, I can still, again, we can schedule a one-on-one Zoom or something if we need to, and I can help that way. Yep, Sarah?
And just to clarify, Dr. Brodke, you want us to plan on that same schedule once we transition to your class. So just plan on Tuesdays for the whole semester, it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay.
My intention is, however, to have your assignments due on Monday nights at 11:59. Did I hear correctly, Truit? You're saying you'll have them due after?
Sorry, what were you saying? I was looking at something else.
When are your assignments going to be due, Truit?
They will just be due, if we're doing Tuesday nights at 7:30 on Tuesday night. So as long as they are submitted to me before I start going over the results in class, essentially.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I will do the grading while they're working on the new assignment. I will grade and give them like more detailed individual feedback on their assignment. But yeah, they'll have basically a full 7 days to work on that.
So Truit, what I want to check with you on, if a student doesn't get them done on time, if they're not done by 7:30, it's gone.
It's gone. Yep.
Right. So they need to get something turned into you by Tuesday, even if it's partially done, but they have to have it done by 7:30 on Tuesday.
And this is where communicate with me. If you're running into challenges, like I need to be aware of those. I can't it be 7:29 on Tuesday night and be, I can't get you anything. That's just not, it's again, this isn't an undergrad, it's not a master's course, it's a doctoral level course. There has to be a little bit of a higher expectation. And then Teo had a good comment. The base version of SPSS is completely fine. You don't need the SPSS. The way they make a lot of money is they have all sorts of little add-ons and stuff that are it's absolutely ridiculous. Some of the things they have as add-ons as opposed to the base package. You do not need any of the add-ons, just the base package. And again, we will be in communication about how we're going to. It may be if you know, if the program is covering it, we could purchase it and then send out the license codes, because that SPSS works through those license codes that have that time range on them, whatever it is. To Michelle's point, it probably changes all the time, but whatever those license codes give you, we will most likely, and if the program is purchasing them, I would assume that we will be sending you out those license codes. Teo did share in the chat, though, like a practice version of SPSS, like a 30-day trial, which is something if you do want to start playing around in that over the break, you're welcome to do that.
I have found, I don't know how that works for the rest of you, but my experience is that if I have even the trial version, then I can go to YouTube and like Introduction to SPSS, there's probably lots of those. And if you can play with it just to get your feet wet for 15, 20 minutes to have at least a general idea of what button is where, and then that'll, I think, give you a leg up once you start in the course.
And there are a million YouTube. I have done this many a time where I've just Googled how to do something in SPSS, and there's always been an answer, which has been nice. And one thing that is nice about SPSS, again, it's not built. You can do coding, right? You can do syntax and all that. It's designed to be a point and click software. You can point and click and paste the syntax actually, so then you can see the syntax to see how you could have just written it syntax-wise. But again, this isn't like R, this isn't Python or anything. It is meant to be very accessible point and click.
And Dr. Brodke's base would be sufficient for you as well?
Sure. Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, I won't require anything that isn't used in Truit's, and we'll make that work.
I will, no, Michelle, we're running into an issue, I think, with getting M+, so I may share M+ output, right, and not have them actually do M+, for mainly CFA, right? Again, I don't know why you can't do CFAs in SPSS. I can't believe they haven't ever added that, but so I think we're probably going to go with sharing I'll do it and share the output, and then they will focus on the interpretation. All right, well, great. I'm looking forward to it. I'm very excited about this. It's something that, again, I basically have taken the structure from what we did at Oklahoma State and the exec program there, tweaked it, right, shifted it around a bit, but I can tell you there it works pretty well, and I think it will work well here as well, where you'll get to the end of the course, and then especially going straight into Michelle's course where you get even more practice. And I think you will leave these back-to-back courses feeling probably much more comfortable on the quantitative side than you may feel like you currently are. All right, anything else? Otherwise, I think we might be good.
Great. So a couple of things. One, you all will meet on Wednesdays at noon as a cohort. That will also be a time, Truit, if something happens, you need to get in and or Michelle and talk to them maybe about things related to the class. There's always time for that to happen. In addition, we'll talk about program, like dates, forms, your reading list, which needs to be done by the end of the spring semester. And that's a reading list on the 3 areas. It's all outlined in the tutorials, and we've reviewed that. You can go back and click on that to go see what's required for the reading list. But a reading list is basically the summary of all resources related to the field of OD, research, and your lit review. And it's putting that together in an organized way that you submit to your chair. That's done by the end of the spring. So you want to make sure you've got that. The first form you submit, we'll go over that, which is the preliminary exam application form. That's the official start to your committee. Again, the tutorials in the DODC Central tutorial and the sequenced and the spreadsheet and the program schedule and spreadsheet that we have that lays out all the steps. It's all right there. So I would just make sure you go and look at all that stuff. On Wednesdays, we look at that. We'll make sure you have that that's the focus of Wednesdays. So we'll make sure we spend time on that. And Michelle, Truit, if you need to touch base during that time, you can. That'd be on the Wednesdays. And I'll send out a little primer on terms of what things we'll specifically focus on. The first assignment that you all have regarding your third year dissertation experience is to submit the name of your chair by the end of the semester. If you don't, then that gives us a cue that we need to kind of talk with you about where you're at and what you need in order to get your chair identified. So when you go into deal, and so Teo, you have this under the assignment section. Cohort 4 has a sequence of assignments. One of the first assignments due in VODC Central is for all the students Cohort 4 to have their chair identified. All you do is you click on the assignment, type in their name, and we've got the name of your chair. So we just know that who your chair is. So that is the goal, is by the end of this fall. Then by the end of the spring semester, you have your committee identified, which is 2 additional members. Again, in the tutorial, and we can touch base on, but it explains who's on the committee, what are the requirements, and so forth. So go in and look at it. It's all laid out step by step for you. And we can, on Wednesdays, the first Wednesday of January, we can touch base on that. And you can ask questions. Go look at the information first to make sure you've seen what's there. And then you bring your questions, and I'll make sure you have your questions answered. And if you come for the first 15 minutes, half hour, just to check in on Wednesday, that's fine. Just know that the time on the first Wednesdays is really to check and make sure you are getting what you need in order to manage the process and the steps. So we've got it all laid out. So just make sure you have that reviewed and you're aware of that. So chair by the end of the semester, rest of the committee by the end of the spring. End of the spring, your reading list, your reference list, so to speak, which is provided, that goes to your chair, and the preliminary exam application form. And we'll talk all about this on the first Wednesday of January in more detail. So just make sure you encourage your cohort members to come. It really saves you a lot of time coming and checking in on Wednesdays at noon.
First Wednesday, or
Yeah.
every Wednesday.
Carol. First Wednesday, that's what I said. Right. So on Wednesdays, Wednesdays is when we meet with cohorts. First Wednesday is for cohort 4.
Yes.
Okay.
So
So
I have a quick ask of you real quick before I forget.
Yeah.
Do you mind, for the students that weren't here, do you mind sending out a blast that we're gonna, Tuesdays at 7:30 will be the planned time for really the entire spring for my class and Michelle's, with a reiteration that optional has a major asterisk next to it, that it's essentially you need to be here Tuesdays at 7:30 if possible. It will be recorded, but for optimal learning, the more often somebody is here, the better they're going to do.
Okay, yeah, and one of the things, Truit, you have in your class when you set it up on Canvas, a calendar attached to it. So if you could put it in on there,
Yep.
make sure that they hear it from you is really important, not just Teo. Teo can send a heads up to people, but it's important that that message comes from you to them. What you can do is with the class, before, you can do a couple things. You can go in and just create an email real quick from them, because it's 12 people. So you just enter their name and it populates instantly in Outlook. And then you can send it out, a note out to everybody. Teo can send a follow-up on your calendar for the classes when I'd put those meeting times in and do that. And then Teo can follow up from here and give maybe a summary or heads up, but just want to make sure that it's in the class and it comes from you, because a lot of times they will listen differently than if it comes from him.
I can share a little heads up note when I can share out the recording of this session once it gets uploaded. I'll send out the link and I'll give a little like FYI. Tuesday 7:30 will be the time for the weekly sessions throughout the spring with Dr. Gray and Dr. Brodke. And per Dr. Gray, there's a major asterisk on the optional. You really will want to attend to get the full benefits.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks. I'm looking forward to it. I think Michelle is as well. I think it'll be fun. We will have fun, and we hope you will too.
Okay, I gotta run. Good to see you all, and I'll try and join as many of these as I can through the spring so that I can kind of level set for myself as you're going to be funneling into my class. If that's all right with you, Truit, and we'll just see how it goes. Thanks again.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. I think we're done. So
Bye, everybody.
anything else? Anything else?
Steve,
Nope,
did you
we'll
wanna
have a
stay
great
on to
rest of the
talk
day.
SPSS just real
Thanks.
quick?
Sarah, you got a second?
Yes, I do.
All right,
gonna
so
send
bye,
you my-
everybody.
I'm gonna send you my Zoom.